Good afternoon. The board meeting will be called to order in a moment, and SPS TV will begin broadcasting. For those joining by phone, please remain muted until we reach the testimony period and your name is called. All right. Staff, are we good to go? Okay. This is President Rankin. I'm calling to order the November 19th, 2024 regular board meeting to order at 4:20 p.m. This meeting is being recorded. We would like to acknowledge that we are on ancestral lands and traditional territories of the Puget Sound Coast Salish people. Ms. Wilson-Jones, the roll call, please.
Director Briggs.
Here.
Director Clark.
Present.
Director Hersey.
Here.
Director Mizrahi.
Present.
Vice President Sarju.
Present.
Director Top.
Here.
President Rankin.
Here.
Student Member Bragg.
Here.
Student Member Ilias.
Present.
Student Member Yoon.
Present.
All right. Thank you. Superintendent Jones, if you have comments to offer, please do that now.
Yeah, good afternoon, board directors and those watching. We have a number of critical items to discuss today, and I'd like to briefly outline some key topics on our agenda. We'll begin by examining the progress of our students with a particular focus on 9th and 10th graders as part of our progress monitoring update. Then later in the meeting, we'll provide an update on our school closures and mergers and the impact these changes will have on our students' learning environments. And finally, we'll discuss the direction we want to set for our students, establishing goals that will guide us moving forward, what we are working hard to achieve inside of our school buildings. Before we dive into these important discussions, I want to take a moment to express my gratitude for everyone who has joined us for public comment today. I also want to thank the many community members we've had the privilege of engaging with over the last several weeks during our community meetings. Those voices and feedback are invaluable as we move forward together. Let's be clear that we are listening, and I will continue to listen because nothing is more important right now. We know that the strength of our school system is not something that we can take for granted. It's not simply passed down from one generation to the next. It takes us to fight for it, and we have to protect what's our services and programs. And so in doing so, we need to make sure that we secure the necessary resources for the short term and into the future. And as you all know, we are facing a $90 to $100 million structural deficit for this upcoming year. And our path to closing this gap involves a three-part approach. First, we have $30 million in flexibility from the repayment of our capital loan program. Second, we have $40 million in state funding that we're looking for, which we are actively working to secure in collaboration with our legislative partners. I'm pleased to report that we've had productive discussions that have been underway, and we thank the legislature for their support in advance. I want to thank the community also for recognizing that vital role as we move forward. Third, we have $30 million that we're looking at for internal savings through our efficiency measures. And so these ongoing decisions to delay necessary fiscal action have gotten us into this predicament. So we need to take action now, and that smart, strategic fiscal action compounded over time will get us on the right track. So part of that picture involves continued and hopefully expanded support through our levies. and we are asking our board this evening to authorize placing these levies in front of voters early next month. These levies are critical components in our effort to ensure the long-term fiscal stability of our district. So our partnership in making that happen is indeed critical. I'm pleased to have engaged in productive conversations, as I mentioned, with our legislature, and we're going to have opportunities to talk to others to join us in this collaborative effort. But before we begin today's agenda, I must take a moment to acknowledge a loss that has deeply affected our community. On November 3rd, we lost a true national and local hero, Quincy Jones, the legendary artist whose remarkable legacy is forever woven into the fabric of our schools and our school system. We are proud to remain and always remain the school system of Quincy Jones, a place where students have the opportunity to excel in academics, the arts, and athletics at the highest level. President Rankin, back to you.
Thank you. We've now come to the board comment section of the agenda. This week, portion of the board and all three of our student board members will be attending the WASDA conference in Spokane, which is the Washington State School Director Association, and also why we're having our meeting this month today on Tuesday instead of our usual Wednesday. This is a great opportunity for our student board members to connect with other student members across the state. We have a lot of peer districts with longer standing student representatives, and there's a great network there, so I'm really excited about you all having that opportunity. It is also a really key time to collaborate with other school directors and staff from across the state, especially as we prepare for collective advocacy heading into the 2025 legislative session. On tonight's agenda, we have voting on the levies to be placed on the February ballot. We'll be voting on our legislative agenda, which was introduced and discussed last month. Once approved, we will share it with our legislative delegation, and it will be posted on the district's website for everyone's information. For progress monitoring this month, we will hear about our current college and career readiness goal. We'll have a work session to finalize our language for 2025-2030 goals. The guardrails will be discussed in another session. And we will also have an update from the superintendent on the school closure and consolidation process. We have presently scheduled public hearings at each of the 4 schools recommended for closure in the beginning of December. That is part of the process, as having received initial recommendations from the superintendent. Does any other or do we have any liaison reports from any board directors? Any student member comments?
Yes.
Director Yoon, go ahead.
So we've been working on many of our initiatives through our Zoom meetings, and we've been taking many of them into action. First, we've been working to keep the SPS student body informed about our activities and initiatives. We posted a summary of the previous October 19th board meeting on the SPS Student Board Instagram account, and this was part of our effort to improve communication and transparency with our fellow students. And then second, we're planning school visits in early December. Our first visits will be to Ballard, Franklin, and Lincoln High Schools. This initial phase will serve more as a trial run, and moving forward, we plan to visit 3 schools at a time, ensuring a broad and geographically diverse representation across the district. Thank you.
Any other student directors? No. Okay. Let's see. We're going to be moving into progress monitoring. I wanted to draw folks' attention to, though, something that's in the board meeting packet, which it's kind of buried, maybe hard to see. We do, as is practice for school boards, have the opportunity to, when we're not meeting, which is when we meet here is the only time the school board exists as a body, which is our only authority. So between meetings, we individually submit questions to staff to help us prepare for anything further, answers which are meant to be provided to the full board. And one of the ways that that happens is in the board director questions and staff responses. I'm highlighting this just to note that I received a follow-up on some of my questions, but one of the things that I didn't receive was a question about and this is not a surprise because I asked it yesterday in addition to a week or two ago. When the board will be receiving an update on the amended policy 2190 about highly capable services. We approve that plan annually. There are certain items in that that are required by state law that did not used to be provided to the board, that have been that we now require by our policy to be provided to the board. Do we have any? Well, I guess I just want to state publicly again. I would like to know when that update is coming to the board. It is information that is required to be provided to the board annually, and I have not received a response about when we will see that plan this year. So would just like to note that publicly, and please provide the answer to the full board when there is one. We will now move to the tables for progress monitoring if there are no other further comments or questions from board directors. All right, our progress monitoring session today is on our college and career readiness goal. Superintendent Jones, please go ahead.
Thank you, President Rankin. As part of our regular meeting today, I'd like to pivot to our progress monitoring conversation. Today, we will discuss Goal 3, College and Career Readiness. I'm grateful for the time we have to discuss this important work we're doing to promote college and career readiness. This is our 6th formal opportunity to review student outcomes in this area using the formal progress monitoring framework. I'd like to take a brief moment to recognize the work done by many people who have helped us reach our target goals for the college and career readiness from our last strategic plan. They include Executive Director Pat Sander, Dr. Mia Williams, Dr. Kayla Perkins, their teams, and of course, the many secondary leaders and educators who support students every day in getting ready for life beyond high school. Next slide, please. So now let's turn our focus of tonight's conversation to how our current high school students are doing on their path to post-secondary readiness. As a reminder, our college and career readiness goal is the following. The percentage of Black boys and teens who graduate having successfully completed at least one advanced course will increase to 62% by June 2024. We focus on this goal given the strong correlation between completion of advanced coursework in high school and post-secondary success. I want to repeat that. That's why this goal is really important, that there's a strong correlation between completing advanced coursework in high school and post-secondary success. The good news is that we've already reached our target for this goal for the class of 2023, and as we have significantly increased the percentage of Black boys and teens graduating on time in having completed advanced coursework over the past 5 years. Now let's turn to our future graduating classes. And given the positive correlation, again, between post-secondary success and students graduating on time with advanced coursework, we monitor how our students are doing in 9th and 10th grade. Is there a technical?
Sorry, no, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry to interrupt. I was just remembering that I didn't turn it over to Evan to chair the progress monitoring or Director Briggs. She's our progress monitoring lead. So I'm sorry for the distraction.
No worries, no worries. So specifically, I'll be reporting on 2 of the interim goals in supporting achieving our stated goal. Interim measure 1, the percentage of black male teens in 9th grade that earn at least 6 credits with a minimum of 1 credit in ELA, math, and science, and 0.5 credit in social studies will increase from 57% in June 2019 to 85% in June 2024. The second interim measure 2, the percentage of black male teens in 10th grade that have earned at least 12 credits with a minimum of 2 credits each in ELA, math, and science, and 1.5 credits in social studies will increase from 39% in June 2019 to 68% in June 2024. So after reviewing newly available data regarding our 9th and 10th grade students, I'll provide that detail on what it means in relation to our stated goal before discussing the strategies we have in place to continue growth in these areas. I will also be presenting a few slides to help illustrate our lessons learned. I think this is going to be the meat of it, where we illustrate the lessons learned. You all have received a memo last week, and as a result, I'm going to proceed with sharing the data and discussing what we are seeing from our interim measures. Is it okay to proceed? All right. Next slide, please. Let's start by me reading our theory of action for helping students graduate college and career and life ready. If SPS Central Office, school leaders, and educators provide high quality Tier 1 instruction, remove systemic barriers, and leverage Seattle's many assets, then African American boys and teens will experience improved access and success in core courses, advanced courses, and graduation pathways. This will increase their likelihood of success in a variety of post-secondary pathways and career after graduating from SPS. So SPS has engaged in 5 broad strategic areas in its college and career readiness work. Those would be excellent teaching and joyful learning, strong relationships, equitable measures, opportunity pathways, and expanded learning over the past 3 years. And more recently, we focused on the following specific levers to improve college and career readiness student outcomes with the 5 broad areas of inclusionary practices, curriculum embedded assessments, use of CCR data, the continuous school improvement plans, or CSIP aligned school strategies, and grading for equity. These 5 are directly connected to the 9th and 10th grade credit data in this memo, particularly with respect to improving Tier 1 instruction in these grades, and will be the focus of the analysis for this progress monitoring update. There is positive correlation between the work being done in our schools in these 5 areas in our interim measures for 9th and 10th grade. We track these 5 measures through input, output, and outcome data. Essentially our planned work versus our intended results. Next slide, please. So in summary, I will now quickly review our executive summary before we look at the data. As stated earlier, we focus on how our students are doing in 9th and 10th grade in particular, due to the connection between credit earning in those grades and post-secondary readiness. SPS data for our interim measures, 9th and 10th grade credit earning, show we are maintaining post-pandemic progress, but not fully reaching the targets that we've set. The data shows that the greater number of African American students are significantly off track in terms of earning the credits they need to graduate on time. The data also indicates that African American male students need additional support in ELA, math, and science. We are providing specific supports in these subject areas through support for inclusionary practices and the use of adopted instructional materials, including curriculum-embedded assessments. Finally, since we just received our graduation data while this memo was being developed, I wanted to share briefly our overall graduation rate for the class of 2024. There is a small decrease of 1.5% that we've seen in comparison to the class of 2023, which indicates that both we are maintaining the progress we have made over the past several years, and we also need to be aware of the trends in our 9th and 10th grade data that may hinder this progress. We will have much more detail on this graduation data as well as our graduation data in our CCR top line measure in January when we come back to you for progress monitoring. So now I'd like to go over the data and highlight some key points before we discuss what we're learning and what next steps we need to take. On this slide, if you could take the pictures of the folks off the right so we can blow the slide up a little bit so folks can see it, that'd be great. So this particular slide, number 5, shows that for last year's 9th graders, the 2023 semester 2 on-track rate for 9th grade African American students is 68.4%, which is 1.6 points lower than the result at the end of last year. And the overall trend for the last 3 years for the class of 2025 to the class of 2027 is flat for students of color further some educational justice and slightly negative for African American males. Next slide, please. This slide shows that for last year's 10th graders, the 2023-24 semester, second semester on-track rate for 10th grade African American students is 52.9, which is 2.5 percentage points lower than the result from the end of last year. The overall trend from the class of 2024 to the class of 2026 is slightly positive for the students of color, further some educational justice, and African American male student groups. Next slide, please. So this slide, we're looking at 10th grade by content area. Slide 7 here indicates that for 10th grade African American male students, the last 3 years show a decline in meeting credit requirements for ELA, down from 76% in 2021 to 70% in 23-24. And in math, down from 71% in 2021 to 64% in 23-24. Of the students who did not meet the interim goal, the lowest accumulation credits were in math, science, and then ELA. One more data slide, please. While you can't see the numbers here because of the small print, this slide is for 9th and 10th grade credit detail. That's where our students are off track. And this indicates that last year's 9th and 10th grade African American male students who are off track are further behind than previous cohorts. And this is missing the second semester interim goal is increasingly due to multiple criteria rather than one. So I want to go quickly to lessons learned, and then we'll have some opportunities to answer some questions here. So when we look at lessons learned, which I think is really important, the data shows that we are maintaining progress we've made over the last few years in credit earning at the 9th grade level after returning from the pandemic. For 10th grade, we are beginning to see more of a decline, but we are still well above pandemic levels. Regardless, for both groups, we still have a lot of work to do in terms of ensuring our grading and data usage are aligned with our efforts to help all students graduate ready for a range of post-secondary opportunities. The following summarizes some of the lessons that we've learned and next steps that we need to take in the 5 areas. So in the area of curriculum embedded assessments, we have learned that students need improved Tier 1 instruction. In particular, areas of focus on our curriculum embedded assessments will help with this effort, particularly in math and science. As a next step, we plan to provide school leaders, educators with guidance on how to use the algebra, geometry, algebra 2 curriculum embedded assessments and in science curriculum embedded assessments during our school leaders engagement sessions over the course of the year to simply improve Tier 1 instruction in 9th and 10th grade courses. In the area of grading for equity, we have learned that the retake policies are part of a high-quality Tier 1 instruction, and are enabling students to have more opportunities to reach proficiency and more opportunities to earn credit. As a next step, we need to study how schools' retake policies specifically impact 9th and 10th grade credit earning and determine whether district guidance in this area needs refining. In the area, finally, of the college and career readiness data, we have learned that school staff continues to heavily rely on ATLAS reports to help students stay on track with credits. And as a next step in that area, we need to expand a centralized credit recovery system to better support schools with credit recovery and considering a focus on 9th and 10th grades in addition to our current focus on 11th grade. So thank you for the opportunity to orient you to the data. And now I think we have an opportunity for the board to ask questions. And I think I'm pushing this over to Director Briggs or President Rankin. Yes, please.
All right. So there's a couple questions on the back of here that were submitted electronically. Should we start with those or what do you think? You have a question. Yeah, I mean, well, these are actually questions that I submitted. So I'd love to get answers to them, but it doesn't have to be right now. So do you want to kick us off, President Rankin?
I flipped that off, or put this up because I was going to say that some of these questions actually, because they were submitted in advance, are in the board packet.
Oh, okay.
And Director Briggs, are you going to be doing the discerning from
Yes,
strategic
I will.
questions
I
to-
will do my
Okay.
best to discern between those
Yeah,
categories.
fantastic.
Okay.
So I guess I
Yeah.
actually do have a
Okay.
question. I'm wondering what has been identified. Well, okay, so it says that the downward trend is located in credit accumulation during second semester. And I'm wondering if it has been identified what the reason for the declining credit. It feels like an output was identified for an output, but still not the source of what is causing the decline in the credit accumulation. What's preventing students from acquiring those credits?
That sounds like a strategic question to me. I feel this is so weird. Like, am I really supposed to be like strategic, technical? Like, should we just assume the questions are strategic unless they are clearly not?
I think
Okay.
technical questions we can get in
Yes,
a document.
exactly.
We don't have to spend
Yeah.
time talking about it.
So
It's not
I'll
that we can't
just-
ask them,
Yes.
but we don't need to spend time. Like we have
Yes.
limited time together.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
So this is our learning in public, so.
Yeah,
whatever-
learning in public.
Whatever we need
Here
to
we
do,
go.
that's fine. And if, President Rankin, if you could ask your question one more time, please.
So it's in the information provided to us here. It looks like the one-year trend, downward trend in meeting credit requirements for ELA was identified as being attributed to lower credit so it says that the decline in meeting credit requirements was that they didn't earn the credits,
In particular subject areas.
in particular during second semester. So have staff identified why that is
So,
and what might be done to address it?
Please, go ahead.
good evening, everybody. Thank you for the opportunity to talk about this data. So I think the key pieces that Dr. Jones highlighted is that what we have determined are there particular subject areas where students are struggling more than in others. And so that's part of the issue. The good news on that front is that math, which continues to be one of the areas where students most commonly do not pass their classes, we've adopted new instructional resources that this board approved in the spring for algebra, geometry, and algebra 2, so we're hopeful that we're going to be able to address that. Overall, the trend is relatively flat in terms of credit earning, but we are seeing concerning trends in those particular subject areas. So what's going on there? The hypothesis is that we need to continue to improve the inclusionary practices that we've been talking about to ensure that that's reaching all students. And the second hypothesis is that some of our students are falling further behind. They're current 11th graders that are further behind than prior 11th graders. And they're going to need more intense supports than just the Tier 1. They're going to need Tier 2 supports, things like credit recovery options that we don't currently have. So those are the things that we figured out to date as a brief summary.
And some of those opportunities for Tier 2, Tier 3 are really having summer supports, having small group instruction, working through our care coordinators, our case managers. All those are opportunities when we identify where our students are at risk of not obtaining credits.
Thanks.
Any other questions? Looks like no. So.
Well, I mean, I have a second
Oh,
question.
sorry,
Yeah,
sorry.
I
didn't
don't
see
want to,
that.
yeah.
Please.
It might be in here and I just missed it. The graduation rates for last year that you said we just got the final numbers. What is the accounting, how are waivers? We had a lot, increase of graduation waivers during COVID, and I know those have continued. What impact on last year's graduation rates did waivers
So we had
have?
what we've seen is a 1.5% decrease from last year to this year. And waivers have played a part in that. I'm going to ask Dr. Perkins to speak to specifically to waivers. This is a conversation we've been having internally. And you gave me a really good response earlier this week. If you would please provide that.
Yeah, so the two waivers that COVID produced in terms of the state provided were around the pathway, the graduation pathway requirement, and then waiving up to 2 core credits. And so, yes, we saw significant use of that waiver for the class of 2022, the class of 2023, and the class of 2024. The overall decline is relatively small, so it doesn't really explain that exact decline. But it is something that we need to keep an eye on because they are going away. They're officially done for this year. For the class of 2025, you need to meet your pathways. You need to meet your core requirements. And we need to go back to some of the things that we learned pre-pandemic where our graduation rates were already going up. So short answer is there doesn't seem to be a reason for the 1.5% decline from the waivers. We significantly relied on them, though, both last year and the year before.
So do you think that that might mean that as waivers stop to be used, might we see, sorry, this is a future question, but a decline from this year to next year if fewer waivers are used?
Yes, I think we could see that. That's why we have to double down on some of the
Exactly.
Actions such as curriculum-embedded assessments and training for our newly adopted material and making sure our grading policies are effective and that we're really using our data to track our students in terms of Atlas so that when our students are starting to fall behind, we can have earlier and more relevant interventions. And so the waivers would probably technically knock our numbers down if we don't use them, but if we can make up that ground with some of the strategies that I just listed and others, I think we can make up that gap.
Which would definitely be preferable.
Yes, and so the good news is that we have amazing staff across our high schools. I'll just name one in particular who I was talking with today, Rachel Evans from Chief South High School, who has already baked in plans to address the fact that there won't be those waivers for those students it does have a ripple effect. It does have a challenge in terms of resources. They've had to shift credit recovery more towards 12th graders so that they make sure of that when in the past, they've been able to serve more students. So there's still things to work through, but the good news is that we do have some amazing staff that are getting ready for this bigger challenge.
Thank you. And I have one technical question, and then I will zip it. Similar to the technical question I asked last session, which we haven't received an answer to yet. I asked about what happens after the identification of a child through. I'm just blanking on the Dibbles. What happens? So I have a similar question about the retake policies, which in theory, giving students another opportunity to demonstrate learning is great, but not if nothing has happened between the time they didn't pass the test. Like just say, take it again. Is not like, I would like to really know what happens to support the student being able to fully gain whatever understanding they may not have had when they took the test the first time so that they can successfully retake the test. That the act of retaking the test is not necessarily going to help if they haven't been given an opportunity to access the learning. So that can be answered off any just information about what happens else.
Give a kind of a summary of what we're studying in terms of retake policies, and then centrally how we're trying to support that, please.
Yeah, so with each of these issues, there's sort of what should we have non-negotiable centrally? What should all high schools do? So what we've required all middle and high schools is to have a retake policy to ensure that all students have access to that. What we've allowed schools to figure out is exactly how they're structuring it. So the good news is that we do see places like Chief Sealth that I was talking to today have regular times where they use Wednesdays as a chance where they have a specific block of time for students to go work with their teachers before they take the retake. We need to learn from those strategies to figure out what systematically we should make as non-negotiable, because we do see these greater challenges with 9th and 10th graders not earning all of their credits. So, yep.
And just real quick, our staff continue to rely heavily on Atlas reports, and so we're starting to make sure that we're having real-time responses to when a student starts to get behind. And so we're trying to have a much more comprehensive approach to catching the opportunity for an intervention prior to a student slipping too far behind. And so it's not just a retake of a test, but it's actually understanding where they are in their credit retrieval and kind of the holistic picture of our students. And so you hear me talk about fidelity of implementation all the time. How do we have all of these interventions, all of these strategies working in concert? Really is kind of the power of it. And I think when we see Chief Sealth or other schools start to see the needle being moved, you could probably bet that they're doing a lot of things in combination and they have a good alignment with their implementation. Director Briggs, thank you.
We're done?
If
No more questions?
nobody has any questions for staff about how students are doing, we are done.
Thank you.
All right. It is 4:57. By what we posted in the agenda, public testimony cannot begin before 5 p.m., which is only 3 minutes from now. So leisurely, directors, make your way back to the dais. Please take your microphone, and we will start public testimony at 5. We have now reached the public testimony portion of the agenda. Board procedure 1430 BP provides the rules for testimony, and I ask, please, that speakers are respectful of these rules. I will summarize some important parts of this procedure. Testimony is taken today from those individuals called from the public testimony list and, if applicable, the waiting list, which are included on today's agenda posting on the school board website. Only those who are called by name should unmute their phones or step forward to the podium, and only one person should speak at a time. Listed speakers may cede their time to another person when the listed speaker's name is called. The total amount of time allowed will not exceed 2 minutes for the combined number of speakers. Time will not be restarted after the new speaker begins, and the new speaker will not be called again later if they have already had time ceded to them. If you do not wish to have time ceded to you, you may decline and retain your place on the printed list. Majority of a speaker's time should be spent on the topic they have indicated they wish to speak about. The board expects the same standard of civility for those participating in public comment as we expect of ourselves. As board president, I have the right to and must interrupt any speaker who fails to observe the standard of civility required by board procedure. I also will just quickly make note that, or a reminder that this is public testimony as required by law. It is one-way facing. Our silence does not signify agreement nor disagreement. This is required time offered to the public to provide us with your thoughts for things that are to be considered for vote of the board. And for two-way opportunities, the board held a number of opportunities in the spring as we develop our goals and guardrails. We will be bringing those back out. I'll talk about those more later in the meeting. We will all be talking about those, but for two-way conversation, we will be scheduling time where we will bring our draft goals and guardrails back out to the community to discuss and hear from you all in a two-way opportunity about the direction that the board will give to the superintendent for the next strategic plan. Thank you, and please call the first speaker.
Good afternoon. For those who are providing testimony today, a few additional quick notes. First, we do have a Spanish interpreter joining us today. Do we have our Spanish interpreter here yet? Oh, Lorena is right in the front row. So if you requested Spanish interpretation for testimony, please find Lorena, who has the red scarf in the front row, and she can support you with the logistics of that piece. For those who are joining us remotely today, please press star 6 to unmute on the conference call line when your name is called, and also make sure to unmute on your device. Finally, I'm not going to get the pronunciation of everyone's names correct tonight, so please do take a moment to reintroduce yourself to the board. We do want to hear your names pronounced accurately. So first on today's list is Stephen Smith. Stephen will be followed by Samantha Fogg and then Melissa Palethorpe.
Hi, I'm the parent of 2 SPS students at Cedar Park, the spouse of a 3rd grade SPS teacher, and a soccer coach from a team of kids from our small community school. And I think the vast majority of us, and certainly the large crowd that was gathered outside before the meeting, agree that small community-based schools are the best way to build equitable and diverse communities that give all of our kids the best chance for success. And because you are a part of a small community, you know, when you know all of the kids, when they play sports together, when they go to each other's birthday parties, you build strong and diverse and inclusive communities. Now, I recently had the chance to talk with President Rankin about the school closures, and she told me that one reason that we need to close schools is that we've overbuilt, and that we've built these huge 500 or 600 person mega schools, and now the collateral damage of this mistake is that we need to close our small schools. And we need to disrupt our kids' educations and disrupt these communities that we built, and all for a cost savings of less than 5% of our budget deficit. It just doesn't make sense. Please check out the flyer that I've emailed to you, which highlights that these mega schools actually have fewer staff per student and details how special ed and low-income students may lose existing support and resources. So I'm here today to ask you to put an end to this cycle of school closures and to ask that as you plan the next school levy and the next round of construction projects, don't overbuild more of these mega schools, buildings that are optimized for the best cost per square foot, but not for building strong and diverse communities. Instead, replace our aging small schools with new small schools and keep our communities intact. Seattle can afford it and our children deserve it. Thank you.
The next speaker is Samantha Fogg. Samantha Fogg. Samantha, I think you need to press *6 on the conference line.
My name is Samantha Fogg, and I'm speaking tonight as both a board member of Schools First and as a parent of 3 students in Seattle Public Schools. I urge you to invest in our future by voting to pass our levies. As parents, when we drop our kids off at school, we expect them to be in buildings that are safe, accessible, and designed to support their learning. We want facilities that empower students to learn alongside their peers, equipped with technology that meets the demands of a 21st century education. We also want to protect their future by ensuring these buildings use clean energy solutions and contribute to a sustainable environment. Unfortunately, the McCleary decision did not include school buildings as part of a basic education. Senator Peterson has reminded us that here in Seattle, our district pays more in sales tax for updating and building schools than we receive from the state for those very projects. This is why we rely on building excellence levies, such as the upcoming BEX 6, to provide the safe, innovative facilities our students deserve. By passing BEX 6 levy, you are investing in safety upgrades, energy-efficient improvements, and the future of Seattle's children. These funds directly support the environments where our kids learn and grow every day. Please vote to pass our levies. Together, we can ensure our schools reflect the values and aspirations we hold for our children and our community. Thank you.
The next speaker is Melissa Palethorpe, who will be followed by Suzanne Del Este and then Chris Jackins.
Good evening. I'm Melissa Palethorpe. I'm here on behalf of Schools First. Schools First is a volunteer-led group that rallies every 3 years to help get out the vote in support of our levies, and I'm back again. This is actually my 3rd campaign, and all my kids are almost through college, so why am I here? For many of the reasons that Sam underscored. These levies are absolutely critical to funding our schools, funding the supports that we need for our kids, mental health services, arts, sports, all of that, particularly the EP&O levy for those purposes. We all know we have a funding problem in the right currently, and further undermining what we have would not be in our best interest. Secondly, these are replacement levies, and we've got to sustain what we have and invest in our future. And so, absolutely, we need to approve these levies again to keep investing in our buildings and investing in our community. And then lastly, I would say, over my time, I've really had the privilege of seeing the process up close over a number of years, and I'm just forever impressed with the thoughtfulness that goes into a lot of the work behind both renewing buildings and creating new ones. Communities are involved, neighborhoods get excited, and all of that is really super important to the future of our schools and our communities and for all of our children in those schools. Thank you.
The next speaker is Suzanne Del Este, who will be followed by Chris Jackins.
Good evening. I'm Suzanne Del Este, a proud K-12 graduate of Seattle Public Schools and a parent of 1 recent graduate and 1 junior at Ballard High School. I'm here as a community member, a supporter of Schools First, and a parent to encourage you to pass the Educational Programs and Operations Levy and the BEX 6 Capital Levy. As you know, these levies replace expiring levies. They fill critical funding gaps and fund essential programs to ensure safe and healthy learning environments for all students. As the president of the Ballard Athletic Booster Club, we are acutely aware that the state provides 0 funding for extracurricular activities, and the operating levy helps level the playing field for all schools and students citywide. Your job to balance the district's budget is already challenging, and if these levies don't pass, it will be unbelievably difficult and the impacts will be stark. I'm also here on behalf of 20,000 construction workers and their families across the region and the 19 affiliate unions in the Seattle-King County Building Trades Council. You'll hear from a couple of our leaders shortly. We want to call out that the levies include a student and community workforce agreement that we're very grateful for, which is opening doors and creating economic opportunity in construction for thousands of working people, including students and families from the Seattle Public Schools. The SCWA promotes access to construction careers for community members, women, people of color, veterans, and students with social and economic disadvantages. It provides pathways out of poverty for countless individuals and families. These are thoughtful, accountable, and community-focused proposals. Thanks so much for your consideration.
Next is Chris Jackins. After Chris Jackins will be Billy Hetherington and then Laurel Beckwith.
My name is Chris Jackins, Box 84063, Seattle 98124. On the operations levy, 2 points. Number 1, the resolution cites amounts well above the OSPI amounts. Number 2, this is presumably to collect more money if the levy limits change, but there is no such explanation in the document. On the accounts payable automation system, concur. The cover page states that the item is for PowerSchool platform support. This is apparently the wrong cover page. On consent items number 6 through number 12, 2 points. Number 1, each item would approve an increase to original contracts that were below the $1 million threshold that would have required original board approval. Number 2, so the contracts got in the district door without board approval, and once in, large amounts are being added. On the Seattle Parks Foundation grant, this action involves synthetic turf and thereby forever chemicals. Please vote no. On school closures, please do not close schools. I am including a detailed letter which notes that the school closures process appears to be violating state law and school board policy. Please stop the whole school closure process right away. Thank you very much.
The next speaker is Billy Hetherington. Billy Hetherington.
Evening, Seattle School Board members. My name is Billy Hetherington. I'm a proud member of Lionel Local 242 and worked with Schools First on past levies. I wanted to strongly urge the board to pass the resolutions on tonight's agenda to place the EP&O and BEX levies on the February ballot. Until we see meaningful changes in how our education is funded at the state level, the levy funds are critical to ensuring that Seattle Public Schools can continue to provide essential services to our students. The EP&O levy is critical to maintain and improve day-to-day student services, including support for our teachers, special education, and extracurricular activities. Without these funds, our schools would face devastating cuts that would harm our students' learning experiences and overall well-being. As a coach of youth sports, I see the value of these programs instill in our youth and play a huge role in their ability to become successful upon graduation. As pathways to graduation expand beyond a college focus, these funds are needed to maintain CTE program funding and facility upgrades that a passage of the BEX levy can provide. Additionally, the BEX levy is vital for the modernization and safety of our schools. Our children deserve safe, well-maintained learning environments that foster growth and success. The BEX levy will help fund these critical upgrades to school facilities and enhance our student safety, which should be the top priority for our community. Please consider the long-term impact on our students and families as you decide on these subjects tonight. These levies are necessary to provide a strong foundation for our students' futures and ensure that they have the opportunities they need to succeed. Thank you.
The next speaker is Laurel Beckwith. Laurel, If you're online, please press *6 to unmute. I'm not seeing Laurel online, so we will come back a little bit later. Peggy Fu.
Good evening. My name is Peggy Fu, and I am the parent of 3 children at SPS, including one at North Beach, which is slated for closure. Tonight, I urge you to reject plans for creating mega elementary schools in the upcoming Bex levy. A no vote today can break the cycle of parents like me constantly needing to advocate for their schools to stay open. SPS did not proactively plan to fill buildings from Bex 5, and now our children and communities bear the cost of their poor planning. If there had been transparency during the last Bex levy about merging North Beach and Viewlands, we wouldn't be in this position. The district could have worked with both of our communities, selected a walkable location like Whitman Middle School for the new building to minimize transportation cost, and redrawn boundaries to ensure that the new school wouldn't be overcrowded from day one. I firmly believe that if the district had engaged with the North Beach community 5 years ago with a thoughtful and transparent plan, we wouldn't have just tolerated it. We would have embraced it. Instead, we are now dealing with the fallout from these painful decisions that prioritize real estate over the well-being of our children. The district owes families transparency, accountability, and stability. Before including elementary schools in future Bex levies, require the district to demonstrate the need for mega schools with updated boundary maps and collaborative engagement with impacted communities. For now, Bex Lev Fund should just focus on upgrading middle and high schools and essential maintenance at our neighborhood schools. Parents will support well-planned, long-term decisions that prioritize children. Thank you.
The next speaker is Robert Cruikshank. Robert will be followed by Aaron McDougall.
I'm honored to cede my time to Rochelle and Nalani.
Hello, my name is Rochelle Carrillo. I have 2 children at San Islo, a second grader and a kindergartner, and my second grader would like to say something to you guys.
I am so sad you are wanting to close my school. When I heard my school might close, I was frozen in shock. I was like, why they closing my school? I was scared. San Islo is a beautiful school, and I don't want to see everyone leave. Thank you.
Our school definitely promotes students like her having a voice, and I wanted her to have her voice heard. And we really hope that you will vote no to not closing our schools. Thank you.
The next speaker is Aaron McDougall.
Good evening, I'm Erin McDougall, and I cede my time to Anders Hammersborg.
Thank you. I'm Anders Hammersborg, parent of a second grader at Sacagawea, sitting in the back here. Thanks for taking a few minutes to listen to us, and thank you, Director Topp and Director Rankin, for recently touring Sacagawea and engaging with the community. I hope that will be a sign of a long overdue change of leaning into public engagement rather than blocking it out. I hope the takeaway from this and other recent public engagement sessions isn't just that SPS parents and caregivers care about their schools. I hope you're also listening to why we're all here, and it isn't just because our schools have been proposed for closure. It's because the entire closure process has been fraught with half-baked ideas that can't be explained or defended and shrouded in misinformation and vague, shifting objectives. After all this time and effort, there still is no plan. This board needs to recognize that SPS hasn't delivered what it was requested a year ago, that this latest closure plan will bring us no closer to the financial stability that was originally intended, and will instead cause great harm to our students that we say are the focus of our efforts. We've lost track of the original intent behind building larger schools, which wasn't to have them be completely full on the first day they're opened. Instead, they were built larger because the cost was roughly equivalent to building smaller schools, and it would build extra capacity into a strained system, providing flexibility to move programs between schools and lessen the impacts of temporary closures of other schools while going through the rebuilding process. There shouldn't be any perceived pressure to fill large schools as soon as they're open. Instead, there should be a phased approach with a combination of rezoning, beginning with incoming kindergarten cohorts intended to minimize disruptions to students, prioritize stability as one of the planning factors, continue to maximize caregiver choice requests, and as part of a larger strategic multi-year plan that includes a 20-year forward-looking school rebuild plan. There are way too many PhDs walking around this building to not expect this level of basic leadership to manage $1 billion organization like SPS. Thank you.
The next speaker is Megan Hamilton. Megan Hamilton. After Megan will be Riley Elimus.
Hello, I cede my time to Heather Barker.
Hi, I'm Heather Barker, and I am a 14-year teacher at Santasallo Elementary. We always call it the little school with big ideas. And in the time that I've been there, I have seen that community grow and become a truly welcoming place for all of our families, as some of those from behind us here. We're a very tight-knit community and close, and we're also have a population of about 80% people of color, and those furthest from educational justice. Our school has fallen into some disarray. The school building has. And it has been sort of a neglected school. We've had the Santasallo Pond that was finally fixed. We have the pickup area that is a big mud hole that our families are expected to drive their cars through to pick up their kids. We have been sort of neglected and left alone, and our families have felt that neglect. It's very difficult to see them now trying to rally together to save our school and keep that community and that sense of a neighborhood place. By closing a school there on Delridge as a part of the community is devastating for our families. And I would really ask that when you take this vote, you really think about the trauma and the harm that you are causing these families who are already suffering and struggling. Thank you.
The next speaker is Riley Elimus. After Riley will be Jane Tunks and then Stacy Woodlake.
Hi, this is Riley Elimus, and I am a long-term substitute at Graham Hill Elementary in one of their kindergarten classes. I'm here to speak on behalf of Graham Hill and the students at Graham Hill in our kindergarten classes in terms of class sizes. Both kindergarten classes have 24 students with one teacher and no aide there full time. It is very difficult for us to manage 24 students as one teacher, and I'm urging the board to really consider adding a third teacher at Graham Hill Elementary. I know that this would be a great opportunity for students to engage in learning in smaller class sizes, as that will help them learn and become successful academic students, and also learn to be able to engage with social-emotional learning, which is so important at the kindergarten age. And small class sizes is going to help students overall, and everyone will be successful and more successful. Thank you for listening.
The next speaker is Jane Tunks Demel and then Stacy Woodlake.
Hello, my name is Jane Tunks Demel, and I cede my time to Rachel Kubiak.
Hi, I'm an epidemiologist and a mom of 2 Sacagawea students. SPS showed no differential impact of school closures by race or ethnicity, which is essential. But this should have been just the start of their analysis. As an epidemiologist, I analyze data every day. So I looked at the OSPI data and found that proposed school closures disproportionately impact children experiencing homelessness, English language learners, low-income families, and children with disabilities. This matters. Research clearly shows that closures have outsized, long-lasting negative impacts on vulnerable children, like children in low-income families, like children with disabilities. And this is true for children both at the closing and receiving schools. So why? Why are we so focused on consolidating schools that serve the children most at risk of being harmed? There is so little to be gained: negligible budget savings, no new school resources, and so much to be lost. I'm not always against school closures, but I am strongly against these. Sacagawea is a great school serving children who frequently fall through the cracks at SPSS, and they are falling now. There is no clear plan for children with disabilities, like my son. Do you know the struggle to adjust to change for a child with a disability? To make friends? Avoid being bullied? Their plan is to send kids like mine to John Rogers or quote-unquote nearby schools. We're told the whole community will be kept together, but apparently SPS doesn't include children with special education needs in that community. This is blatant ableism. End this plan now. Seattle must do better.
The next speaker is Stacy Wedlake. After Stacy will be Alice Appleton and then Annie Becker.
Hello, my name is Stacy Wedlake, and I have 2 children at Sacagawea. I'm here today to strongly oppose the closure plan. First, the district has not shown us a clear path to improve student outcomes. Second, this is only a skeleton of a plan, and even the process seems to be developed on the fly. The district holds meetings with these 4 schools with as little as 3 days' notice, notifications and emails only in English. The meetings promise clarity, yet cannot provide concrete detail, which just leaves us more confused. We receive no indication of when and how we will get our answers. I want to also speak specifically about Sacagawea and John Rogers and why consolidation will not provide us stability. First, these are not adjacent schools. All of Sacagawea attendance area is on the other side of Lake City Way and will need to be bused. Next, most critically, the new school risks being over-enrolled shortly after consolidation. The district's expected enrollment for John Rogers this year was 190 students, but the actual enrollment was 242. If the 2 schools have the same enrollment next year, the new school will only have capacity for additional 64 students. As the district knows from opening new buildings, more families will choose their neighborhood school over enrolling elsewhere in the district. Between these unplanned enrollment increases and new development in the area, many of these same students will be impacted by yet another boundary change in the near future. When I brought up this concern to the district, I am told that those students will get to stay at John Rogers. But what's left unsaid is that those students will lose bus service because of the boundary change. And for many families, some that live as far as 2.5 miles away, that will mean staying there will be impossible. Please stop this half-baked plan, restore Sacagawea to the levy, and work with us to address the district's challenges. Thank you.
The next speaker is Alice Appleton. Alice, please press *6 if you're on the line. I'm not seeing Alice, so we will come back later. Moving now to Annie Becker.
My name is Annie Becker, and I have been an SPS parent since 2009. At that time, I was a kinship caregiver to a justice-involved youth, a youth with immense unmet special education needs, a youth who was unable to get into interagency due to waitlist constraints. At that time, the district was far more well-resourced. We found a school for him, but he was only able to attend for 6 months. The school he was eventually able to get into closed as part of the 2009 closure round. School closures are part and parcel to the school to prison pipeline. The youth that I was raising at that time fell into and stayed in that pipeline. I currently have 4 children in Seattle Public Schools. I've watched committees dissolved and public engagement cut in my time at SPS. An ideology has taken over the governance structure of the school board that creates a top-down system that prevents true engagement and understanding with what the community needs. Student outcomes don't change until adult behaviors change. Prior to this closure plan, school communities tried to meet with President Rankin and the rest of the board to make our voices heard and ask for real engagement. It has been made clear to us that no one is interested in co-designing a future with our communities. I do not take the recall effort lightly, and I really wish that we didn't have to do this, but I am part of the recall plan for President Rankin. I am asking that we all engage in a meaningful way so that we can truly understand what the outcomes will be for our children if this happens. Thank you.
The next speaker is Alex Wakeman-Rouse. Alex Wakeman-Rouse. After Alex will be Andrew Broninger and then Mike Dash.
Hi, my name is Alex Rouse. I'm a Dunlap parent and SPS alum. I've got my Ballard sweatshirt. And All Together for Seattle Schools co-chair. Schools closure should be the last resort. I implore you as a board to insist the district pursue publicly other options to close the budget. Why are there 89 directors or supervisors in the central office? Why does the $150 million in purchase services and what does the $150 million in purchase services and consultant contracts buy? I know some of that bought enrollment projections that were wrong by 800 kids. This closure plan could cost us money, families, will harm kids, are not justified, and will hurt our city. Why tear apart the fragile social bonds we're starting to forge in a post-pandemic world? What family would choose a neighborhood where the closest school has been boarded up and fenced off? These mega schools will be less resourced. I'll give you documents afterwards. The 4 consolidated schools will serve more students with 8 less FTE. 2 schools may lose their Title I status and funds. 2 schools may not have room for all their special ed kids. And enrollment projections and assumptions are wrong. We are growing. Families live here. The kids are here. You should be concerned that SPS cannot execute this without causing harm, even if you like the plan. They didn't listen to Rainier View families and educators for years. They threatened school leaders if they spoke with families about the school closure plans. They only shared information about school closures in writing on a website. Black and brown and immigrant families at Dunlap at my school told me they were never invited to any of the affinity group meetings. No one has listened to our community or come to us. How will the district be accountable if this plan fails? The stakes are too high for our kids, families, and educators. There's a tidal wave of caregivers and educators across the state, including us, going to Olympia. Don't make this risky decision before we know what money we get from the state. Please hold the district accountable to ensure school closures are the last resort. Thank you.
Next is Andrew Broninger. After Andrew will be Mike Dash and then Alexander Bradbury.
I have lost my voice, so I yield my time to Jennifer Markovitz.
Hi, my name is Jennifer Markovitz, and I'm the PTA president at North Beach. SBF staff have talked a lot to us recently about kindergarten enrollment. Dr. Marnie Campbell referred to kindergarten as the starting place for understanding future enrollment in an elementary school, and she said that once students start in SPS in kindergarten, they tend to stay in SPS. So I want to show you a chart of kindergarten enrollment at all schools in SPS, and especially North Beach and its 2 neighboring schools, Viewlands and Loyal Heights. This chart tells many stories, and I want to highlight a few of them. North Beach is not a small school. Our kindergarten cohort this year is larger than 3/4 of elementary schools in SPS. Viewlands is not particularly small either. Viewlands' current kindergarten enrollment is very close to the average for SPS. North Beach and Viewlands are both growing. Kindergartners at both schools have grown 25% over the last 2 years. If you merge North Beach and Viewlands school communities together, you get by far the largest kindergarten class in SPS, significantly larger than Loyal Heights, which is already the largest. as this kindergarten enrollment is growing fast. This will produce by far the largest elementary school in SPS, and it will keep growing. If the goal is to fill a 650 student school to 85% capacity, this, Loyal Heights, is where you want to be, not here, the combined Viewlands North Beach School. And you certainly don't want to be here when you're growing as rapidly as we are. It is clear that this plan will cause us to rapidly run out of room at Viewlands, and then what? What is your plan then? The only way this consolidation makes sense is if you plan to redraw enrollment areas in the near future and move kids out of Viewlands. This goes against everything you are saying right now about merging whole communities together and minimizing disruption. You can't do that with these two medium to large size schools. You just don't have the space for all these kids. So please be honest with us now. If the plan is to move kids out of Viewlands, tell us now and be honest with us. Thank you.
The next speaker is Alexander Bradbury. Alexander Bradbury. Oh, I'm sorry. I skipped over Mike Dash. Do we have Mike Dash on the phone? Alexander, we'll come to you next. Apologies.
Okay, this is Mike Dash, and I would like to cede my time please to Ann Perry.
Thanks, Mike. Hi, I'm Ann Perry, and I'm a school nurse both at Rocks Hill and Stanislaus, as well as a Delridge community member. I want to begin with an excerpt from a poem written by Joy Harjo, Conflict Resolution for Holy Beings. Number 1, set conflict resolution ground rules. Recognize whose lands these are on which we stand. Ask the deer, turtle, and the crane. Make sure the spirits of these lands are respected and treated with goodwill. The land is a being who remembers everything. You will have to answer to your children and theirs. The red shimmer of remembering will compel you up the night to walk the perimeter of truth for understanding. As I brushed my hair over the hotel sink to get ready, I heard, by listening, we will understand who we are in this holy realm of words. Do not parade pleased with yourself. You must speak in the language of justice. There is a current running below the proposed consolidation of Stanislaus and Highland Park elementary schools, and the land and spirits remember. No one can deny we're in a difficult moment, and yet this moment does not stand separate from all the moments before or after now. Over the past 12 years, 3 of Seattle's most culturally and linguistically diverse schools have been consolidated, displaced, or closed. In a pattern that echoes settler colonialism, children from families with the least institutional power have been separated from schools rich in land, history, and community. These schools span the Delridge corridor, which falls within the Longfellow Creek watershed. Longfellow Creek begins at Rocks Hill Park near the original Rocks Hill School, passes by Stanislaus Elementary, and then Pathfinder K-8, which was previously Cooper School, before emptying into the West Waterway and out to the Duwamish River and Elliott Bay. Unsurprisingly, the lands and waterways of the Longfellow Creek watershed have also suffered the effects of institutional neglect and harm. In the powerful work of restoration that is happening through community partnerships with the Duwamish people, neighbors, nonprofits, businesses, and government, hope for healing is alive. We must shift our focus. Instead of asking how do we ease the bitter pill of school closures, I call on Seattle Public Schools administration and board to step into this moment with values and actions aligned. In restorative justice circles, let us turn to each other and boldly say, how do we meet this moment together? What does justice look like now?
The next speaker is Alexandra Augustine. Alexandra Augustine.
This is Alexandra Bradbury. Am I next?
I combined two names. I'll get back on track here. Alexandra Bradbury, and then we'll go to Allison Augustine. Apologies.
Thank you. I cede my time to Najib Hashim.
Hello. Hope everybody is doing well. Thank you for giving me this chance. My name is Najib Hashim, and I'm a parent to Stanislaus School student. I have 2 kids, and my third one is on the way. I'm the only one working for my family, and my wife don't drive. Stanislaus School is a block away from me, My wife takes my daughter to school by walking, putting her 1 year and a 2-old baby on her back while she is pregnant because nobody's at home. This is the only school which is close to my apartment. If this school is closed, it is going to be harmful to my family, and it will be harmful to my child. My wife can't walk more with a small baby on her back while she's pregnant. My daughter is doing good in school. She likes the teachers and the staff there, and her friends. The school community felt bad for my family because of my situation. How will I tell my daughter that she will be separated from Sanislo community that was supporting her? How do I explain to my wife that she can no longer safely walk our child to school? How do I forgive myself for trusting that school board district would provide stability for my family? Please don't close Sanislo because it is connected to my life. Who knows, maybe in the future, one of the Sanislo school students might be the President of the United States of America. Yes. So please don't close Sanislo. Thank you so much.
The next speaker is Allison Augustine.
Hi, my name is Allison Augustine. I'm from Stevens. I'm also the advocacy chair of the PTA. Hey, Michelle. So school is the people, right? And the people are the school. You cannot have a well-resourced school without community. It doesn't matter if you have 150 kids or 500 kids. If you don't have community backing and trust, it's not going to be a well-resourced school. So you don't have that trust right now because we're missing some pretty critical things, which is transparency, clear communication, and accountability. I think, Director Mizrahi, you said that you need to have time and listening. We're missing the accountability piece in a couple of different areas that we still need from you to believe in a plan. We also need the plan. We need to see the plan so that we believe in the plan going forward. A fellow Stevens parent just said to me outside in the hall, a black parent just said, you're trying to be stewards of a budget, but you're not being good stewards of the community. I think that's a really important point here because kids are needing our support, right? They don't always have a voice. Some kids have very good voice up here today, but we have to do better by them. And we have to come together in better ways than just open meetings where people are angry, and rightfully so. But we have to have meaningful conversations and answer questions. And if you don't have answers to those questions, let's try to answer them together because we're a resource, definitely. We're a smart, committed group of people. I believe that you guys are here for that. I don't feel like this is this might be somewhat of a thankless job at times. So if we could work together, that would be great. Ways we can do that and that we can build trust is if you show your work. We know OSPI is bringing in $3 billion. Is $75 million going to come to us? Senator Jamie Peterson sent his kids to Stevens. He's a very pro-public education advocate. He's aware of what's going on. January 13th, they're going to meet at the state level. Why aren't we advocating there? Why aren't we trying to get more state funds together? Enrollment. Why haven't you tried to increase enrollment? Like, where is the completion of that enrollment study that came out of the 2024 supplemental budget? That would be really useful. And the last thing is, where's that long-term plan and the student outcomes? Gina and Michelle, you both asked for those, I know. So we'd love to see those too. Please help us help our kids. Thanks.
The next speaker is Olinda de la Fuente.
Hi, my name is Olinda de la Fuente. I have 3 beautiful daughters, 26, 22, and 7 years old, who is in Sanislo. My experience with my 2 older daughters on East Lake side of Seattle at Emily Dickinson, Louis May Alcott, Evergreen Junior High, East Lake Sammamish High School, Interlake High School, and Highland Middle School, Redmond, and Bellevue schools. I just want to say this: nice buildings don't make good education. Good education depends good teachers, good moral principles, and human values. All these schools have beautiful buildings, technology, and material things, but they full of pressure and discriminations, racism to children of immigrants, bullying, undervaluing, and lack of human's value. I finally found a beautiful school with a passion for education, which is what a school is for, Sanislo. A school that still loves education, where they still form good citizens with principles and confidence in themselves, where they don't feel judged for how they dress, where they are from, what they eat, how they speak their English. You can talk the whole way and feel the respect and love for our kids. Then this evil plan runs out of the earth of the education. Sadly, the school district, where they are supposed to promote education and train up education and lift up education, nobody take down and fail our education. That's not for how you citizens there. In our communities and immigration families, even in the third world, our country's schools are highly valued. It's not how it is right here. Educations matter to us. It's not about buildings. It's not about money. You can put a price to education in the good schools. As a parents, fathers, mothers of Stanislaw, Stephen, Sakayawai, Sakayahawea, and Norwich, we refuse and rebuke your plans to transition our children to other schools. It's not acceptable. We want a solution for us. Stop all this chaos. Make a difference in the right way for our children. Make a right decision for our communities. We'll be really sorry for you guys if it's the first school board to remember your names, how close our schools in Washington State. Thank you for your time.
The next speaker is Andrea Ornelas. After Andrea will be Emily Bryce and then Chris Mylan-Beck. And then I'll go back to a couple of folks we missed earlier.
Good evening, members of the board, and thank you for the opportunity to speak today. My name is Andrea Ornelas, mother of 5 and LiUNA Local 242 member. I'm here to express my strong support to vote to have the Educational Operations and Capital Levy on the ballot. With levies expiring, it is critical that they are renewed levies to address the critical needs that directly impact our students, families, and teachers. By voting in support of having the levies on the ballot, we are investing in the future by reducing long-term expenses and preventing costly repairs down the road. It's not just about buildings and infrastructure. It's about investing in the people who make our schools great. By strengthening our educational systems, we are building a stronger, healthier community, schools, who are the heart of our neighborhoods. When we support them, we invest in the well-being of every member in our city, opening the doors to career pathways that will directly benefit our students, especially those from historically marginalized communities. I cannot emphasize enough how important it is to give our students the tools that they need to succeed in a rapidly changing job market. SCWAs ensures that our workforce development efforts are both equitable and inclusive, providing opportunities to underrepresented students and members of our community, including those from low-income backgrounds and communities of color. Continuing these efforts is a must. These apprenticeships provide students with a chance to develop practical skills, gain professional experience, and secure employment in fields such as construction, technology, healthcare, and the trades. These programs are not only benefit the students who participate, but they also help build a more skilled and diverse workforce that will strengthen our local economy for years to come. These resolutions are not just about classrooms and test books. It's about creating a pathway to success for every student, regardless of their background, and ensuring that all students in Seattle have access to opportunities that empower them to build the lives they want to lead. I urge the board to support and approve the resolutions and move forward with the levies on the ballot. Thank you.
Next is Emily Bryce.
I'm Emily Bryce, Stevens' parent, and I cede my time to Jamie Harper. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Jamie Harper. My son is currently in kindergarten at Stevens Elementary. I'm here to strongly oppose the closure plan. I understand the difficult place the district is in with the current budget deficit, but I want to make sure the needs of the students are the top priority during these discussions. My special needs son currently holds an IEP. He was at Lowell Elementary for 2 years, then moved to Stevens as they can better meet his needs. This was a traumatic move, but Stevens offers what he needed. Stevens offers a program called Extended Resource. This program is to meet the social and emotional needs of kids and exactly what he needs. This has been a crucial program for my son and is helping him grow. He is making friends and has a community that understands his needs and wants to see him excel. This has been a game changer for him. He has found a home at Stevens. With this current plan, he is looking at his 3rd elementary school by the age of 6. Not to mention another traumatic change. This will greatly affect the progress he is making and set him back again. My biggest worry is moving him to a larger school with less resources will result in him being lost in the system. As you know, all kids need stability and structure. Kids with disabilities hold an even higher need. Changing schools at such an early age affects them the most. When reviewing the top schools in Seattle that support kids with disabilities, Stevens falls number 3 on the list of public schools, and number 4 if you include private. Montlake isn't even listed. Obviously, I'm worried about my son. Like other schools on this list, there's no plan for for kids with disabilities at Stevens. This is detrimental to these kids, and I urge you to reject the proposal and put all kids first. Thank you.
Next is Chris Mylenbeck.
Hi, I'm Chris Mylenbeck, and I'd like to cede my time to Quanshay Maxwell.
First, I want to start with, God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, and the courage to change the things that I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. I say that because I'm not only a single mother of 4 children that are in the Seattle Public Schools, but I'm low income. Sorry, I'm new at this, so bear with me. You guys haven't given us no reason to trust you. I'm asking that you guys don't close the school. I wrote some stuff, but hey, I got to do it my own way. At first, when I found out that I had the opportunity to come up here and speak in front of everybody, the first thing that I felt was, wait a minute, I don't look like a lot of people, and a lot of people in these rooms that I come in. I've been with Stevens Elementary for 11 years. I have a daughter that is in 11th grade at Garfield. I have a son that is at Meany in the 7th grade. I have a 4th grader that is at Stevens that has a learning disability. Without Stevens, I would have just thought that my son didn't like to read. But with being at Stevens, and the teachers and the staff, they helped me find out that my son was just dyslexic. But now they've worked with my son. I come home. And I get to see my son sitting and reading a book without any problems. And he's happy to read them. He's happy to sit with me and say, hey, Mom, want to listen to me read? And not have no stumbles. I also am a parent that needs transportation, that needs childcare. And those are not the things that they talked about. You want to talk about equity, but we're not talking about childcare. I have to let my kids know that they already have to, let's say, my boys already have to live their life with dealing with day-to-day things on just simply being young black boys. But now I have my 9-year-old fourth grader asking me, Mom, are they going to close my school? It takes him a lot to form relationships, trust. We started as a family, at Tent City. I don't know if a lot of you even know what that is, but let me just enlighten you just real quickly. Tent City is for families that are homeless, that don't have a place to stay. They give you and your family a tent to live in. We started there, and then we moved into transitional housing, and then we got permanent housing. And all doing so, we were at Stevens. Stevens, for me, I cannot speak for no one else but myself. But what I can say is, Stevens is not just a school to me and my kids. Stevens is a family. And breaking us up, I can't say that, no, this school's not better than this school, but what I can speak for is my own school. Stevens has helped me and my children come out of a lot of dark, hard places. And it's not just me that I'm worried about, because I've went through school. I went to school at Rainier Beach High School, class of 07. So I've been through school, and I'm one that grew up with a learning disability, ADD, attention deficit disorder. I got the resources that I needed when it was my turn. Now it's me stepping back and saying that I have children that need resources that we're getting at Stevens that we may not get at another school. So I'm asking you guys not to make the decision based on how adults feel, but how every single little one, not only my kids at my school, but at the other schools too, because it's not the adults that are affected, it's our children. So I please, sincerely, from the bottom of my heart, please think about that decision before you make a decision. Because it's not just us that are going to be affected by it. It's our babies, and our babies are our future. Dr. Martin Luther King stated that he wanted us all to be treated as one and equal. Don't break us up. Let's all come together, one school after another, and do it together, and show our kids that even when something is uncomfortable and doesn't feel right, or you feel like you don't fit, that you join hand in hand, and we as a team can do it. Again, my name is Quanshay Maxwell, and this is not going to be the last time that you hear my name.
We're going to go back one more time to a couple of speakers earlier on the list who we were unable to hear from. I don't believe that they're on the line, though. So let me check, though, if Laurel Beckwith is in the room or on the phone. If so, press *6 to unmute. Laurel Beckwith. While we are waiting to hear from Laurel, I'm going to also ask Alice Appleton to unmute. Or is Alice Appleton in the room? I am not seeing either of them, so we're going to go to the wait list. If you had time ceded to you earlier, your name will not be called if you're on the wait list. If your name is called and you already spoke, even if it was for a partial testimony, please just let us know and we'll move to the next speaker on the wait list. There's only one speaking spot per person. So I'm going to skip over Jamie Harper, who we heard from, and we'll go to Max Drews. And after Max, we're going to skip over Rachel, who we heard from, and we'll go to Josh Doherty. So it's Max Drews and then Josh Doherty. Is Max in the room or on the phone? Okay, we're going to go to Josh Doherty. Is Josh here? And then after Josh, we'll go to Claire Swayhart.
evening. My name's Josh Doherty. I'm from North Beach. I have a first grader there. I'm here to ask you as a board to pause and take a beat. I want you to reject this ill-conceived plan. Earlier this fall, or this summer, right, we had a 21 or 17 school plan. Now we have a 4-school plan. This new plan was originally presented as a well-resourced plan. It is not. Staffing will be reduced at these new schools. This plan was presented as a budget savings exercise. It's not that either, because at most, with your numbers, it'll save 6.26% of the deficit. At the numbers that I trust more from other people who have put them together, it might save 1.3% of the deficit. This plan was presented as a solution to decreasing enrollment. It's not that either. 2 of the schools on the list, as some of my fellow parents presented, have increasing populations of kindergarten students who will likely stick with the district and therefore will likely have increasing enrollment. Plus, all the history, all the research, which I know you guys have seen, shows that closures lead to decreasing enrollment because more families leave, which leads to less funding. The current data presented does not make a convincing argument for closing schools. Not only that, conversations about student outcomes have been conspicuously absent in every engagement. There aren't details about that. The current plan should be rejected because our kids deserve better than short-term plans that solve no problems. I urge you to drop the school closures and come up with a solution to the budget crisis that is different, because I'm not denying there's a budget crisis. Just come up with a different plan. And if you're going to push forward, as I expect you will, regardless of the feedback you receive, please instruct the district to develop a detailed multi-year plan to guide the process in partnership with us, the community. During feedback, you've asked us what will rebuild trust. Taking time to truly build a detailed plan will rebuild trust and make our children's needs and education outcomes the priority. That would be a good start. But first, please exhaust all efforts to keep our schools open, our communities together, and make the transition plan as smooth as possible for our kids. It's clear from outreach that this plan isn't fully thought through. Our kids are not an experiment. Stop treating them like one. Let's take a beat. Let's pause. Let's see what funding is available from the state. And then let's work together as a community, as a school board, as a district, and develop a real strategic plan. Please put our kids first. Please reject this plan.
The next speaker is Claire Swayher. Is Claire in the room? I don't think we have any more speakers we haven't heard from online. So is Claire going once, twice? Okay, moving on. Mary Dixon. Is Mary Dixon here? Mary Dixon. Okay, moving to Amy Hallman. Is Amy here? And Amy will be our final speaker tonight.
Hi, I'm Amy Hallman, and I cede my time to Ken Beadle.
My timer already started. All right. Hey, I'm Ken Beadle. Nice to meet y'all. I'm here representing Stanislaus yet again. I'm a disabled vet with 4 kids, 3 of which have gone through the SPS school system, and I've got a 3rd grader currently going to Stanislaus. I want to talk a little bit about fiscal responsibility, and I want to echo some of these thoughts that have been shared tonight. How can we trust a superintendent who has taken a pay increase when we're almost $100 million in debt? How can we trust a lack of transparency in this current situation? Because I don't know about y'all, but I'm mad. I'm upset. I'm going to keep it civil, but I'm upset. Okay, there's a lot of people that are going to be affected by this. We're not talking about a school closure. We're not talking about money. We're talking about destroying communities. That's what's happening. And I promise you, there are children who are not just at risk, they are in danger. I volunteer a lot. That's why I look like this, because I came from James Baldwin Elementary teaching traditional Native athletics. I'm not Native myself, but my family is. And I promise you, there are kids I work with that are in genuine danger from this school closure. I promise you, okay? So I need you to think about it when you vote. I need you to look real hard and think about those kids who might not make this transition successfully, not just in the school district, but in life. I was driving along Aurora. Some of those people I see on the side of the road, they're children. They're somebody's kid. They ended up on Aurora, looking the way they do, doing what they do. And you know what I'm talking about, because somebody failed them. Please do not fail our children. Thank you.
President Rankin, that was the 25th speaker for tonight.
I'm sorry, did you say I was the final speaker?
The 25th.
Thank you. I was good until someone talked about their kid being 6 and changing schools 3 times already, because we don't have a system that welcomes all kids at every school. We don't right now. A year ago, we went into this process knowing that it was going to be really hard, knowing that we were facing another year of deficit. And what we said as a board at the time was that if we focus on the needs of the kids, the solutions will make themselves apparent. If we center on what our children need to succeed, even if we come up against decisions that are hard, even if we come up against solutions that include considering consolidation, but if the community can understand the challenges and see that at the center are kids, they can be brought along and they can actually help us come up with stronger solutions. And I'm so angry to be right here in a completely preventable place. And I'm so sorry that you all have to take your time to come down here when for a year we have, on behalf of you and your children and the entire Seattle community, demanded that we have acknowledged that we understand that there are issues and demanded that we get a plan that centers students. Not that focused on a number of schools, that centered students. And we unanimously voted and agreed that in May that we understood that such a plan could include many consolidations. Your questions haven't been answered. Our questions haven't been answered. Gina and I had the great experience of touring Sacagawea the day after I attended the community meeting there. That building is at the end of its life, but the building's not the school. And the school, the community, and the program, they're not the same. And I know that I've said this. This is not new. These are not new words out of my mouth. And I'm crying also just out of frustration. And in full disclosure, as a neurodiverse person, it takes a ton of masking to be here and try to be professional when I don't really know what that means. And I can't take, 5 years of it has been too much for me. To continue to believe in a system that keeps letting so many of us and our kids down. I still have hope that we can change the trajectory and that people up here and around the corners of the room want what's best. I can't see how the plan that we have right now is in alignment with any of the things that we've asked for. We had an opportunity, Sacagawea, because of historical segregation in special education and the placement of students with disabilities in programs in pathways that don't allow every kid to attend their school. Literally, you can live 2 blocks from a school and they can tell you, I'm sorry, we don't have that service here. A neighborhood school. And so Sacagawea has a higher percentage of students with disabilities. They have a 40%-ish student with disability population, not because there happen to be a lot of kids with disabilities in that area, but because a lot of those kids weren't allowed to go to their assignment school. And so SPS created a school with a much higher, a twice higher percentage of students with disabilities. But because of that, they have one of the most inclusive, intentional school communities in our whole system, and they are employing the practices that we want to see more people employ. They have a developmental preschool. I don't think we should have those. I think SPP plus, everything should be plus, but we got to talk more with the city about that. Any kid should be able to attend preschool. But because they're small, they have split classes. Their principal is a former 2nd grade teacher. He understands the importance of preserving those early learning spaces. He doesn't have split classes, kindergarten, 1st and 2nd grade. I'm sure somebody with the sign back there could probably say how many kids are in a class, but they're small because there's not a lot of kids at the school. They put the split classes in the upper grades. So they've got, I think, 4th graders in 3 different classes. They have 2 4-5 splits and a 3-4 split to balance the numbers so that teachers don't have huge class sizes. But because of that, they have this really close community. And then when it's time for math, the 4th grade, they teach math at the same time. So all of the 4th graders can come from their split classes to one classroom with 2 teachers, so it protects the caseloads for those teachers. And they do grade level 4th grade math together. And then they go back and they have, out of necessity, had to do all of these things with their master schedule. The heartbreaking thing is that they're doing the practices that we're trying to say will be more able to do in a school with more teachers, which I do believe to be true. But I think there was a real missed opportunity. If we had started the conversation where we did start it, what does it mean to have a school that's well-resourced? What does it mean to have a school that can serve every kid? It would have been recognized that Sacagawea had something that needs to be replicated. And we could have even built, and I think still can, and it's not up to me to have ideas, but you know what? I got nothing to lose at this point. We haven't missed the opportunity. We have an opportunity. Why not make Sacagawea, that's the school building, yes, beyond its use. But what if we learned from them, intentionally kept a school that, like the experimental education unit, preschool and kindergarten at the University of Washington Herring Center, has a higher proportion of students with disabilities? What if we kept that model that they have that's so incredible, and what if we use it as an asset to train more educators in inclusionary practices? What if we built that school? What if we rebuilt that school at 300 or 350 so that educators could go there for 2 years and then take those best practices out into other buildings? When I visited Sanislo and their outdoor space, that's an asset. That's not a deficit. That's something that people in wealthier areas of the city wish they had access to. What if that was an environmental learning center that could be accessed by more students? What if it became, if not an elementary school, again, an after-school program that focused on environmental learning? I don't know. I don't have a lot of authority as president, actually, except for to dominate the microphone. But one thing I am allowed to do is postpone meetings that have been scheduled at my
authorization, not regular board meetings, but special board meetings. I'm open to hearing from what other directors think, but I am highly inclined at this point to suspend, delay, whatever the 4 hearings that we have at buildings, as I just can't imagine we're going to hear anything at those buildings or between now and January that would allow us to vote yes on this proposal. So it's not an official vote, it's a temperature check, because I have the authority to say that we are gonna delay the meetings. Unless the update later this evening has new information. And I'm not saying we don't need to consider consolidation still. I'm just saying I can't imagine that we get to the place where everybody feels good about voting yes in January with what we have now.
So I appreciate Liza losing it. Because what you're witnessing
It was going to happen.
is that there are 7 humans on this dais who made a decision to be a public servant. And I'm looking at my emails right now. I have so many bullying messages from parents, from people who I thought were my friends. And we are doing the hard work. This is not easy work. And unfortunately, what's about to come after January 20th, 2024, 5 is going to be devastating to this district because we actually didn't do our work that we needed to do before that. And so I'm saying to parents, what you need to understand is this board is not trying to just close your kid's school. We're not trying to break up communities. What we're trying to do is save a system for all of your kids. We want high-quality public school education for every kid in this district. So we're not in a place. I'm not saying anything that I didn't say down there at the last board meeting. If you want to watch riveting TV, go watch it. I wanted to see a plan. There isn't a plan. We can't do this closing of schools unless we can assure parents that we're not going to damage their children, that we're not going to once again have a child who's going to be on their 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th school. That's not healthy. It's not healthy for adults to change jobs that often. Why do we think it's healthy to do that to kids? And so here's the deal. We will take a public vote. We are going to do this in public. We are going to take an aye vote for school closures or no. That's what we're going to do in public. That's what I'm challenging. I'm not interested in just abandoning this. I want an up or down vote. We need to speak to the community because we haven't been speaking to the community. They feel like we're hiding behind the dais. I'm going to tell y'all, I'm a normal, human, middle-class person like most of you sitting in this audience. I go to work at King County government every day. I'm a public servant. I do my job. I ran for this office for kids, and I have not been able to lean into that. This job shouldn't be political. It shouldn't be hard. It should be 100% focused on kids. Instead, we have weaponization. We have parents attacking parents. We have parents attacking school boards. We have school board members attacking school board members. This is ridiculous. It is not the model we want to be modeling for our kids. We need to refocus and we need to buckle down. Do we need to close schools? The answer to that is yes. I see you shaking your head. We do. But we need to do it in a way that is going to benefit all of our kids, not just some of them. And so that's our work. That's our work. And closing schools doesn't just mean closing schools. Liza gave an example of replicating a model. But right now, we can't even have that conversation because it's so political, it's so weaponized. So we will take, I'm telling you all, we're going to take an up or down vote, period. I don't know how we're going to do that, but we're going to do it. We're going to state to you all what our vote is on the current situation, not future, the current situation.
I can make a motion.
I don't care what you
Do I, legal check, do I need to move to amend the agenda?
Can you go to the microphone? Thank you. Everybody needs to hear.
Because we weren't being asked to take a vote on
Right.
this at the moment. It would be in the future, but
Right, there's no action item on the agenda about this. What is the vote you're looking to take?
I would like to recommend a motion to, I guess, now, rather than in January, reject the current plan, not all school closures, all consolidations, because we don't know what that might look like or need to look like, but to reject the current plan that has been proposed via initial recommendation by the superintendent.
So we have a policy, 6883, that lays out the process that is supposed to happen, triggered by presentation of preliminary recommendations, which requires things like the site-based hearings that have been scheduled. As you noted, as board president, with the power to schedule special board meetings, as you did for these.
So powerful, I can schedule meetings.
You can schedule special board meetings on your own. You also, as I advised, have the power to delay those meetings. We have two things in place that require meetings as long as there are preliminary recommendations on the table. One is Board Policy 6883. I do not believe it would be appropriate for the board to come to a final vote tonight when that process has not played out. That's when we would be acting, I believe, contrary to our stated policy. The second thing is the board in October passed a resolution that directed the superintendent to come forward with preliminary recommendations with certain parameters, and as part of that resolution said following receipt of those, there would be these site-based hearings. So I do not believe it can be put on the agenda tonight to come to a final vote. What you can do right now is or at any time, postpone those hearings, although the sooner the better because notice of them has already gone out and is in the Seattle Times. But as long as there are preliminary recommendations on the table, that does dictate a certain course of actions that the board is supposed to take.
So if I were to, in my authority as president, postpone those hearings, the preliminary recommendations could be rescinded, and that would halt this current process?
Well, that's a question I would advise the superintendent on. The process is set up so that the first action that's taken as part of school closures is the responsibility of the superintendent. I am his attorney as well. He has not asked me for advice, and he has a right to have confidential attorney-client communication, so I don't want to advise
And I'm also happy to
superintendent
take a recess and come back, but I guess I'm not seeing any objections from anyone.
Well, as board president, you also have the power, the incredible power to declare a recess.
Drunk with power. Okay, I am going to propose that officially in this moment, we are delaying the scheduled hearings and possibly need to, I guess in consultation with the superintendent, we'll determine if the recommendations are going to change or be rescinded. Because we can't vote not to accept them.
Correct. That's not how 6883 is laid out. And I want to make sure we are following that process as long as.
We have to have the hearings. Thank you.
Yeah, as long as there are preliminary recommendations, we have to hold the hearing. So what I can do now, what I can do now is delay the hearings that have been scheduled.
Delay them. Okay. Can you use your microphone?
And the preliminary recommendations could be withdrawn, in which case the hearings would then be canceled. So again, legally, with the resolution in October, the other things asked for or required in there, basically, the questions have I do not believe that the directions given in that resolution have all been addressed or met. And so I also don't anticipate that would change by January. So, okay, let's recess.
It's not a question.
Let's
for me.
recess and have everybody consult with their legal. How much time should I recess for?
How long do y'all want to stay tonight?
And also, I am concerned about, I have to say, I am concerned about people's safety with the storm rolling in. My husband just texted me that power's out in Lake City.
Okay, so.
I'm supposed to go to the airport after this. Directors can hear me, clap once. If you can hear me, clap 2 times.
Maybe Ellie went to get them.
Okay, everybody in the room, I think, can hear me, and unfortunately, it's not all the directors. So I need at least 2 more people to emerge. Here we go. All right. We are resuming here at 6:46. Let's see, the next item on our agenda is action items, but we're going to take something out of order and hear the update on the superintendent's recommendations for school closures. And originally on the agenda towards the end of the meeting, we're going to address that now, and then we will continue on with the agenda as is. Dr. Jones.
I will be brief. This won't be the planned update. When we talk about a system of well-resourced schools, the school board gave me direction to develop a preliminary recommendation. It is now clear that that direction is shifting, and I'm considering withdrawing my preliminary recommendation. I will need to give it more consideration as to when it would come back, if it does. And as you know, we have scheduled meetings. I will need time to clarify the process as driven by policy. But my intent is to reconsider the preliminary recommendation. That concludes that agenda item.
Thank you, Dr. Jones. Thank you, Dr. Jones. We have now reached the consent portion, and sorry, I'm going to try to be as brief because I'm supposed to go to the airport, assuming that power hasn't knocked out that possibility. But we have now reached the consent portion of today's agenda. May I have a motion for the consent agenda, please?
I move approval of the consent agenda.
I second.
Approval of the consent agenda has been properly moved and seconded by Vice President Sarju and Member at Large Briggs. Do directors have any items they would like removed from the consent agenda? Sarah? No. All right. Seeing none. Wait, sorry. Oh, all those in favor of approving the Oh, I thought you were, okay, sorry. All those in favor of approval of consent agenda, please signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Is Director Clark
Do we have Director Clark? What? Oh, she signed off, okay. Any abstentions? Or any noes, sorry, any noes, any abstentions? No, okay. The consent agenda has passed with a vote of 6-0? Is that right? Yes. All right, now moving on to action items, because there has not been enough action already. Let's see, action items, where are we? I think I'm missing a...
Page 9. Page 9.
It's this one.
I don't have
the other one.
You want mine?
It's mine's blank. Thank you.
We all have a blank
Oh, we do? Okay. Thanks, Evan. Action items. Okay, the first item is approval of Resolution 2024-25-3, replacement for educational programs and operations levy. May I please have a motion for this item?
Is this 2024-25-3 replacement?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. I move approval of this. My talking points aren't on here. Oh, wrong page. Okay. Too much paper. Okay, so now that I have my points here, I move that the Seattle School Board accept the proposed replacement for educational programs and operations levy and adopt Resolution 2024-2025-3, which replaces a 3-year levy totaling $747 million on the February 11th, 2025 ballot as attached to the board action report, and that the school board appoint the individuals named in section 4A below to committees to prepare statements for the King County's voters pamphlet advocating for approval and for rejection of the educational programs and operation levy. How do I advocate for approval and rejection at the same time?
As part of the submission on the ballot, school districts have to provide to the public
Right.
statement
Got it.
pro and
Okay.
statement con. So
Got it.
we're-
Okay. This is my first time doing that part.
And is there a second to consider this item?
Oh. I second.
Thank you. This approval of the replacement levy for educational programs and operations has been moved by Vice President Sarju and seconded by Director Briggs. Do directors have any questions? I have one. Or it's more of a clarification. Since I know there's concern about the difference between what goes on to the ballot and then what projects actually get implemented, can you just briefly explain how the selection of actual
I believe
projects is?
I believe this, Fred Podesta, Chief Operations Officer, I believe this motion is about the.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
educational
Yep,
programs and
you're right.
operations
You're
levy.
right. I'm so sorry. That was my question for the next one. All right. All right, apologies. Okay, let's see, do we need to have you call? Do I call? Yes, can Ms. Wilson-Jones please call for the vote?
Director Hersey?
Aye.
Director Mizrahi?
Aye.
Vice President Sarju?
Aye.
Director Top?
Aye.
Director Briggs?
Aye.
And then I do not believe Director Clark is on the line. President Rankin?
Aye.
This motion has passed unanimously.
Thank you. The next item is approval of Resolution 2024-25-4, Building Excellence, or BEX 6 Capital Levy Program. Approval, may I have the motion for this item?
I move, number 1, that the school board adopt Resolution 2024-2025-4, placing a 6-year capital levy on the February 11th, 2025 special election ballot for voter approval to fund the Building Excellence 6 capital levy program. And number 2, that the school board appoint the individuals named in the background section 4A below to committees to prepare statements for the King County voters pamphlet advocating both for approval and rejection of the capital levy.
I second.
Two directors besides me have the question I already asked. All right. Same question. Well, not same question as before. That was intended for this. But can you explain, please,
you.
a little bit, or confirm the approval of the scope of the levy versus the actual projects that are carried out?
And again, I'm still Fred Podesta, Chief Operations Officer. There is an implementation plan that's approved by the board as part of implementing the levy. We built some flexibility into this proposal, knowing there was a discussion about potential school consolidations. So that will be decided as part of that. The board also approves individual projects at the contracting phase. Clearly, in this discussion about school consolidations, we'll have to step back and think about how we design schools, what student assignment plans need to look like, and we would do all that before we get to that implementation plan that we would share with the board.
And the board approves the implementation plan as well? Okay, thank you. Any other questions? All right, Ms. Wilson-Jones, the roll call, please.
Director Mizrahi? Vice President Sarju?
Aye.
Director Top?
Aye.
Director Briggs?
Aye.
Director Hersey?
Aye.
And President Rankin?
Aye.
This motion has passed unanimously.
All right, thank you. And thank you to those who are supporting this. They're both critical supports for our district and our students. Number 3, I guess I introduce this as the chair. Authorizing the district to pay the necessary expenses of defending Seattle School Board Director Liza Rankin in judicial proceedings to determine the sufficiency of recall charges. May I have a motion, please, for this item?
I move that the school board authorize the district to pay the necessary expenses of defending Director Liza Rankin in judicial proceedings to determine the sufficiency of recall charges that were filed with the King County Department of Elections on November 8, 2024. Immediate action is in the best interest of the district.
I second.
We have Chief Legal Counsel Narver at the podium.
Is that on? There we go. Good evening, General Counsel, Greg Narver, General Counsel, introducing this bar for intro and action this evening. This action is similar to one that came before the board 3 years ago when there was another set of recall petitions directed at 6 then members of the school board. There's now another set of recall charges filed. They were filed with King County Elections. State law authorizes a process for the district to pay the costs of defending a director against whom recall is sought. There are 3 steps to that process under statute. First, the director requests that the district fund the defense. That has happened. Second, the district's legal officer approves that request, and I have approved it. That's the second. And then the third is that the board has to approve the district providing a defense to Director Rankin. The process is one where the charges are filed with King County Elections. It then goes to the King County Prosecutor's Office, which prepares a summary of the recall charges and sends those to King County Superior Court. If this board approves this bar, the first thing I will do is formally retain outside counsel who will handle the defense of the charges. They will appear in the court action and then be responsible for filing a responsive brief and appearing in court. The hearing is supposed to be set within 15 days of the court's receipt of the recall charges and the summary, so this is on a very expedited process, so I'm hoping this can be approved this evening so I can get counsel in place to represent Director Rankin. Are there any questions I can answer about this? All right, thank you.
Thank you. And I am abstaining from this vote for hopefully obvious reasons. I will now ask for the roll call, please.
Vice President Sarju?
So I means I approve this?
Correct.
Aye.
Director Top?
Aye.
Director Briggs?
Aye.
Director Hersey? Director Mizrahi?
Aye.
And President Rankin, you are abstaining from this vote, correct?
I am abstaining.
This motion has passed with a vote of 5 yes and with 1 abstention.
All right, thank you. Does anybody know what the weather is looking like?
It's bad.
Are we, is it,
They said outside is bad.
okay.
Yeah. Got students.
I think that I think all that's left is goal setting, and I think that we've had a lot happen tonight. I think we should, no goal setting.
Okay, let me tell you.
Pause on that.
We will have to schedule an additional meeting to do that.
Okay, we'll figure it out.
We will.
Here, you want mine?
So I don't know if somebody needs to move to amend the agenda, if I can just state that. We will need to schedule another meeting just to set those goals. If we miss this window for setting the goals and bringing it back out to our community, we risk not having them in place for the development of the 2025-26 budget and the start of the strategic plan. So totally understand tonight has been a lot, and we may not all be in the best place to have that conversation now, but we can't delay it to the meeting that is supposed to be
We
introduced
just
at.
canceled a bunch of hearing dates, so maybe we can use one of those dates.
Our schedules just got a lot more free.
Years into this, and I can't figure the microphone out. Just simply a motion to postpone consideration of this agenda item until a future meeting to be determined. And so then that will.
I'll have Gina do it.
Oh, you're going to do it?
I don't care.
I thought I had to do it. I don't need to do it.
I move we table the 25-30 goal recommendation work session.
And then somebody seconds.
Someone second. And, yeah.
You going to add that?
No.
Okay, I second that motion.
All right. All in favor of?
I think you need a roll call vote.
I'll do a roll call.
Oh, you do?
Yep.
Okay.
Consent agenda is the only one you get to do like that.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Director Top. Aye. Director Briggs.
Aye.
Director Hersey.
Aye.
Director Mizrahi. Aye. Vice President Sarju.
Aye.
President Rankin.
Aye.
This motion is passed unanimously.
Thank you very much. And there now being no more business to come before the board, this meeting stands adjourned at 7:03 p.m. Everybody, please get home safely.